into our Zoom call. And because the live chat, the live chat be active and going hard in the paint.
Let's do it.
All right. We are live right now. All right, let me record.
Recording in progress.
All right. Can you guys hear echo?
Yeah.
I'm hearing echo. Shoot. Let me see. Hello? You guys hear echo now?
No, Mark.
Now we're pretty good.
Oh, the echo's dead. Okay. All right, good. All right, thank you. Oof, I'm glad that you can fix the echo real quick. All right, we are live, y'all. Everybody good? About ready?
Woo!
Yeah,
Let's
ready.
get it. Let's
do it.
All
Let's
right,
go.
we are live, y'all. Welcome to another session of the Government Cloud Podcast. You guys already know my name is Will. I'm the host of this show. If everybody's tuning in for the very first time, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a great show for you guys. And as you guys can see, we have a full panel of Polynesian men guests tonight. I'm really excited for them to jump on and have this conversation. To all my subscribers out there, to all my followers out there that always support my content, thank you so much for all the followers out there. But before we start the show, real quick, if you love the content, you support what I do, please press that like, subscribe button real quick and show some love and help me reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Don't forget, we got the live chat going. So for everybody that always tunes in every single Wednesday, and I love the feedback you guys always give. Thank you so much for all the live chat comments you guys did. Let's get the live chat comment. Drop a comment. Let me know where you guys from, and let me know your thoughts as we have this conversation on this podcast. And I enjoy all the thoughts and the jokes you guys always put on there. You guys are hilarious. So you guys keep that live chat going, guys, fellas. Also, don't forget, it's a public Zoom show. The one thing I always do, I love doing my show, I want to have a conversation, especially for those that are that part of my audience. So you guys already know the deal. If you're watching this show right now and you guys want to join the conversation, you want to share your thoughts, I always promote open dialogue. Whether we agree, we can always agree to disagree. So there is a public Zoom chat that you guys, public Zoom link you guys can get from my social media platforms. It's posted on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And if you guys want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is go on my other social media platforms, get that public Zoom link, and jump in the conversation. And you'll be able to jump on with us and have a conversation with us. Don't forget, my only rule is keep it respectable. As long as you respect me, the host, respect the platform, and respect these guests, and have a respectful conversation. You guys be able to be on the show. If you guys are disrespectful, I'm gonna kick you out. Don't forget the super chat donations, real quick. Everybody that always sends me super chat donations every single show. Much love to you guys. So if you really, really love the content and really want to support me, send it through a super chat donation. Much love to all you guys. My ultimate goal is to get my podcast studio. So every single donation will go towards my podcast studio and help me make better content for you guys, because I really appreciate all your support. So every single day I'm trying to elevate my content, give you guys the best quality content I can give. Nevertheless, that's it. That's pretty much it for my introductions. Real quick, let's start the show. We got a great topic for you guys tonight. As you guys see, we have some great intellectual guests. So I'm gonna ask my guests real quick, and you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick for all the people that don't know who you guys are. And I'll start with my new guests. And I'll start with Daniela. Go ahead, all the way from New Zealand. Introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah. So my name is Daniela. I'm from New Zealand, and my sort of life story is that I'm the equivalent of Mexican over there in the US, whereas we're called here overstayers. So I'm a project manager in a big construction firm here in New Zealand. And how I started that journey was picking up a broom and approaching a couple of different sites and say, hey, be a slave essentially. I just want to get on and do some work and have some contribution to my family and my community in a sense. And yeah, I can't wait to get into this topic. And yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, no worries, Daniela. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for jumping on, Daniela. All right, and if you guys don't know who Daniela is, he's the one that gave us the origin of Phi Kappa from the last show. So much love you, Daniela. You're the man. Nevertheless, we got a superstar from the Hobson Show. I'm sorry, I'm joking. we got a new guest. We got a new guest that's joining us tonight. Go ahead, Marcus. Introduce yourself real quick.
What's up, everybody? I'm Marcus. My mom's from American Samoa. I'm Black. Mafkasi, man. I live in Portland, Oregon, from the Pacific Northwest. I was a little bit about my background. I was in the Army. I retired from the United States Army. I was a Ranger in the Army. I'm a BJJ black belt. I teach jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, former professional MMA fighter. Been fighting for a very long time. The oldest of 6 kids, Polynesian Samoan family, so I'm the oldest of 6 kids. So I had a lot of responsibility, but I'm a dad, superstar. I self-proclaimed superstar dad. And I love some TikTok, man. TikTok's my outlet. So let's get it.
All right, my man. All right. Marcus, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to be out here, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All right. Savage, go ahead, man. It's all you. Introduce yourself real quick.
My name is Savage Island, and I try my best to live life accordingly by being nice to others as I would like to be treated. My whole purpose in life is to make sure that I lead by example so that the people who are following my example, besides the students I work with, because I work with the school district, are my kids. That's where I'm first and foremost effective, is at home. If I could teach at home, hopefully that influence spreads by what they do with their lives. But this content is not suitable for the children under the age of 18 without adult supervision. So please be advised. Some of the things we will be saying comes from our heart, our perspective, but more importantly, our experience. If you take offense to it, by all means, hit the chat or hit us up personally. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Savage. Thank you so much. Always appreciate you, Doko, being on the podcast. And last but not least, the alpha man himself, Siaosi.
Oh, I'm the smallest alpha there is. I appreciate that, though. Siaosi Vema was born in Tonga, came here when I was 11. I am 6 out of 11 children. A little bit about me. 7 years ago, I had a double lung transplant. 7 years ago, I had a double lung transplant. I came back to life and I was like, why, God, would you bring me back to this world and stay the same? So I sought out to discover who I am and discover the person that came back to life. And what I've discovered is I'm a man that is willing and is looking to transform people's way of being, that they get to see human beings for every single person, that you and I both see human beings before we look and judge people for who they are and who they're not. So I'm really, truly searching for people to discover that freedom comes from within and knowledge comes from within.
All right. Yeah, Siaosi, man, always dropping knowledge. All right. Thank you so much, Siaosi. Nevertheless, I just want to say to all of us, thank you so much. Really appreciate, very grateful for this opportunity. You guys to jump on the podcast, much for taking the time out of your busy day. But nevertheless, let's get right into it, fellas. You guys already know the topic at hand. All right. Is it toxic to teach young boys, to stop crying and man up? All right. So a lot of you guys have followed me. The reason I got this topic, honestly, I saw this video going viral on social media. It was this woman in America, and she was complaining how girls and boys should be raised the same. The boys shouldn't be raised to be, boys should be emotional. If he's crying, it's okay to let him cry just like the girls, and we should be able to raise boys and girls the same way. And for me, when I saw that video, I totally disagree with what she said, because the reason why I say that, because there's a different reality of what men go through in life than women, right? Of how we're perceived, our expectations, our roles, our biological roles as men, all right? And the thing is, if we raise young boys to be like girls, there's a consequence and there's ramifications for it. But we're gonna talk about it on this topic, and of course, for all those ladies that were coming for me, they will in your feelings a little bit. I want to make it clear, I did not. That's why I know these ladies. They'll listen to respond. They'll listen to understand. I clearly said on my video, it's okay for boys to cry. My point is, at some point, you have to stop crying and man up, because I cried. We've all cried as men, but when it comes to life, when we go with the things we go through as men, we can't keep crying about the things we go through. There's consequences to it. But I'll open up for you fellas and let me hear your thoughts about this topic. So that's the topic at hand. And like I said, people that are watching this right now, let me share your thoughts on while we're discussing this. Share your live thoughts on the live chat. I want to hear what you guys say. Also, I want to open this for you guys. Also, and of course, if you guys are watching this, if you want to be part of the conversation, don't forget, if you want to be part of this conversation, there will be times throughout the show allow you guys to come on. So you have to be patient and watch the show. And then when I give you guys the opportunity, you guys can hop on. But let's open it up. Is it toxic to teach young boys to stop crying and man up? And let me open up with my new guests. I'm interested to hear you guys, your thoughts. So Marcus, I'll start off with you, man. What's your thoughts about this topic? Go ahead.
So number one, is it toxic to young men, young boys, not men, young boys to stop crying? In my opinion, yes. But this is where I jump into that, because I believe that both boys and girls should be raised equally, should be raised the same. I think that for me, and I can only speak for myself, I raise my young women to be just as strong as I do for my boys. All right, just as strong as that. Because, and listen, you're right. In life, the world treats men harshly, treats men very harshly, and so because they treat men very harshly, you need to understand the different reasons of why emotions are happening. All right. So like if a young boy's crying, there's so many different variables that come into play. Number one, did you just slap him? You know what I'm saying? Did he just get slapped? And then you tell him, hey, stop crying, or I'm gonna give you something to cry about. Well, that's a different topic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a different topic, because that's happened to me a bunch of times. You know what I mean? Like trying to like hold back my tears. But if they're crying on the field of battle, for example, in sports, like you break your back, or you get hurt, or your team lost, you have emotions, you have feelings of loss and stuff like that. So again, there's emotions that should be had, and it's identifying those emotions and what they mean at that time. But it's not, I don't think that raising a young boy to have feelings is a bad thing. And I don't think that makes him any less of a man in the future than it does say, telling my girls, hey, look, stop crying. Or you're going to get more spanking. You know what I'm saying? So in my opinion, it does make, I think it's pretty much toxic. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no worries. Does anybody want to respond to Marcus?
It's on point, man. On point. And I'm hoping that most men start looking at life like this. Right? I come to what you guys would call an old school where kids are meant to be seen, not heard. And it worked for that time being. But as we move forward, we need to be like a lot more open-minded about who we are and what we're teaching our children. And all I can say is I can only speak from my experience of having my son, my 24-year-old now son. Yeah, because Marcus, when you said, when you talk about raising him, smacking somebody and in that kind of right, I see my son. I've done that to my son. And I told my son, I'll give you something to cry about. I also said the same thing to my daughter, right? Did that help in their growth in the future? Maybe, maybe not. But I can only say that in their experience of them at that moment, for me as a father, because we go back, it's their experience of being their son and their daughter. Must have been not as great, right? And with that experience that they live forth with. So I want my kids, for example, for myself, I want my kids to have their own say in their life. And it's not dictated by how I was raised. Not dictated by the hands that I raised when I raised my hand. Right?
Okay.
This is something that happened in the past and it should never, ever occur again in this lifetime. Because we have it back in the island, it's tough love. I'd say it's bullshit love. You love me, you don't hurt me. You show me, you teach me, you don't hurt me. You get that?
Yeah.
You love me enough, you don't hurt me, you don't physically punish me. But you sit down and you explain to me why this is and why that is. So that I get a sense of understanding, that my child get a sense of understanding why it may not be right or why it may not be wrong. There's growth there. But if we're just punching them and we're just kind of giving them what we think it's there, I can only imagine the life in the man that boy will become. So it's not going to be a good one. It usually ends up in jail.
Okay. So Marcus, before I move on, I have a question for you, right? Because you said that you raise your boy and your girl the same way, right?
Yeah.
Are there any things that any type of advice that you would tell your son that you wouldn't tell your daughter, because this is something that's specific to men, or it's just the same, everything's just the same?
No. There is a difference between raising a boy, a young man, and a young woman. So there is different advice that you're going to give to your young man as opposed to my young. So I'm an old school guy. Like, I believe in chivalry. I believe that. And let me say it like this: my daughters will never have anything to worry about because they have my sons. You know, they have my sons there. My sons there to be the protectors of the family when daddy's not around.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And then on top of that, like I said, again, my sons are taught to open doors. They're taught to, to put their sisters first. They're taught to be the one to get up and answer the door and not let your sister answer the door. They're taught to walk, hold your sister's hands, put them on the inside of the street. These are things that young men need to know, right? They need to understand, okay, like, number one, like, why are you crying? All right, tell me why you're crying. Because if you don't know why you're crying, then stop crying if you don't know.
Okay.
But if you identify what it is, why you're crying, it's okay to cry. Like, tell me why you're crying. Like, what is it? Are you in pain? What is the level of pain? Are you in anger? If you're angry, how many different varying degrees of anger is there? There's I'm just angry and irritated, and then there's rage. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
okay.
If 10 is so that's where I'm at. So yes, there's different types of advice that I give my sons than I do give my daughters.
Okay. And go ahead. You can continue. Go ahead.
Let me just say one more thing.
Of course. Go ahead. It's all you. Go ahead.
Like I said, I'm a lot older than I come off. I have a very youthful spirit, but like, I have kids. I have a son that's 23 years old. My oldest son is 23 years old, and then I have a 15-year-old son. And I'm gonna tell you, Ryan, as we get through this, I've made mistakes with my older kids. I have my olders and my youngers. And with my olders, I made a lot of mistakes. I taught them the way that I was taught. My stepfather, my dad, he's from Western Samoa, and so, like, again, I grew up in that environment, and it was tough love. When I tell you, like, it was tough love. It wasn't an open fist. It was, you know what I'm saying? Like, look, whatever's around, you're gonna get hit with, and that's just what it was. But I grew up confused. That made me confused as to what love, what disciplining, what raising a child really, really was. And then after seeing the mistakes that I made with my olders, I had to make a decision. Like what you said, like, I had to make a decision. And what am I going to do differently with my youngers?
Okay. Hey, Marcus, I love what you said about emotions, how as men, we need to identify where it's coming from, right? Because you guys all know the real Polynesian right here. We all grew up with the tough love, with the closed fist. Right. So one of the things I have observed, and I've gone through them all the time, so sometimes when my emotions went wild as a man, I didn't know where it came from, and I never talked about it. It did harm me in some type of way, but I had to go through life and learn that as a man. So that's very important. You said that you made some mistakes along the way. And, Marcus, forgive me, but I'm just interested to hear from your perspective. I love what you're saying. So you say you made some mistakes. What was those big? Like, can you name me like the biggest mistakes you made? Because I think it's very interesting for everybody to hear. Because I think this is important.
Oh man, like, listen, control. That's the number one mistake. Is I thought that I could control everything. I could control their behavior. Hey, don't you act up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't get me wrong. None of my kids, even the oldest and the youngest, they're not going to act up in the store. You know what I'm saying? But the biggest mistake is that, again, I've told my son, I've snatched him up for crying, and I spanked him even harder for crying. I remember one time, it was with my youngest son. It was when he was 3 years old. And this is what taught me the lesson. This is where, like, I was at MMA practice. Here I am, this fighter, this guy that I just won. My son couldn't put his shoe on. I was frustrated because I had to, that his mom wasn't watching him, you know what I'm saying? And I had to, get over there and go and help out. And I was frustrated, right? And so I grabbed my son, right? And, I put him on the stand. I went to put on his shoe. His shoe wouldn't go on for some reason. He was kicking and screaming, right? And so then I was like, boy, put your shoe on. I was like, what's your problem? And I started yelling at him. So my 3-year-old son at the time said, Dad, why are you doing this? Why are you spanking me? Why are you, he asked me that question, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I had to ask myself, why am I doing this? Why am I treating him this way? Because it didn't make any sense. He didn't do anything wrong, And so like, I thought that I could be that tough love guy and be like, hey, just get shit on and let's go, hurry up. You know what I mean? So I can go back to do what I wanted to do. And so after realizing that, I took a step back and I looked and I was like, why am I doing this? And so then it sent me down this spiral of what else am I doing wrong? And so then I had to ask all these other questions. And then when you look inward, it doesn't feel good, man. I'm telling you right now, it doesn't feel good at all. So yeah, that's one of the things I did wrong, Will.
All right, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your feedback. Thank you. I'll move it on to Daniela. Daniela, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts about this topic?
Oh man, it's super interesting listening to the OGs and their take on the topic. I can relate in the sense that I was born and raised in Tonga, and I went through the same sort of experience with my old man. The tough love, no explanation, things were non-verbal. It was through action rather than talk. And my old man, his favorite way of teaching me lessons was a two warning, sort of two strike and you're out sort of thing. And then I got the chance to come here, so it opened my eyes in so many different things, and my opinion shifted very similar to how Marcus and Temisi is right now. But I got a slightly different opinion now in the way that I look at my kids, and it's very interesting to hear, my elders and the way that they take this subject. And the simplest way for me to sort of explain my take on it is through an analogy that I've sort of developed over the last couple of years. And the way I think about fatherhood, I try and relate it to that of a blacksmith. And the way that I look at fatherhood prior to my time was that we only got to witness the blacksmith with the tool, whether he was honing the tool or he was handing off the tool for me to utilize. And the tool is the equivalent of, your life skill as a man. And in that sense that we don't get to witness a lot of the process behind the scenes that it's taken up to get through to that specific skill. Like an example, my old man would always get up in the morning and go to work. He always provide. Typical man, never cried in front of us. When shit hits the fan, in a sense, he's the first one to, lead the family in that sense. And I sort of compare that to how I want to father my oldest son. He's 8 years old, and I look at it and think I need to show the pro right from the get-go. Getting up, putting on my shoes, going out into the world, go through all the hardship before you actually get to the tool, and explaining why it's necessary to take all those steps. And I don't think it's toxic to teach boys not to cry. Because the better question to me is, why are we teaching boys not to cry in the first place? And I think I've shared this with you, on our initial conversation, was the way I teach my boy is that anything that goes on in his life, whether we're disciplining him or something goes wrong and he feels an immediate urge to cry, I tell him, feel your emotion, go through it, process it, but let crying be the last piece of tool that you grab out of your toolbox when you can't figure out what else to do. Like, I'm not saying you can't cry, but don't let that be the first tool you grab, and allow it to be the tool that you deal with your emotion right there and then. Think about it, process it. If you can't come to a conclusion where you can deal with it, cry. Then cry. And I try explain it to him where he can understand it. I say, crying, try relate it to your game. When you reach a level and it's really hard for you to go through it and finish that level, crying is like your reset button. You go back to the start. And that's how I feel when I go through my emotional chaotic moment. You know, I get in my car, I can't figure it out. I have my cry, and it feels like almost like a cleanse. Okay, my brain's back to square one. I need to figure this out. But before I get to that process, I put myself through the emotional stress to elevate the way that I think about that and attack it head on. And if I can't, then I release it. And that's how I teach my son and say, hey, I don't want you to cry. I want you to think about it and take as much time as you can. When you come to a conclusion, deal with it right there and then. But if you can't come to any conclusion that you think it's viable, grab that tool, go ahead with it. And that's my perception on it. And yeah, I'm big on the tough love thing with my boy, because at the end of the day, I take my time, you know, I balance it out. When I really find him and just he's playing his game, I grab him out and say, hey, you know, the reason why I'm this harsh on you is because the world's going to hit you in the face even worse. It'll be 10 times. And I want the person that you look at as a leader to at least get you comfortable with how harsh the world's going to be from a place of love. And I want to equip you with all the tool so that when I'm coming at you with tough love, you're able to deal with it in the moment. So when you go out to the real world, it's automatic for you. So that's my whole perception on the whole, is it toxic? I think we should ask the question, why do we do it in the first place? And that's why I do it.
Yeah, Daniela, I love what you said, you know, about when he's going through challenges, the first thing he shouldn't reach out to is crying. He should use, yeah, I mean, it's okay if you cry, but that shouldn't be the first thing he always rely on. And, you know, and be more logical and practical when it comes to life, instead of basing decisions on emotion. So I think that's very powerful for me. Fellas, do you got anything you want to respond to Daniela? Anything he said? You guys want to respond or add on to it? No. Okay, no worries. All right. So, Savage, what are your thoughts, Savage?
Well, first, I wanted to say thank you to each gentleman here who spoke, because those are quite the perspectives. I mean, that's one thing I enjoy about getting on a panel with prestigious men like you guys, is that I'm not the only Islander out there thinking these thoughts or going through these experiences. So I'm not, you know, alone in when doing this. And like you said, this is the goal, is for us to talk about it. Mm-hmm. But is it is it toxic to teach young boys to stop crying and man up? It is toxic in the sense that if you have no solution, if you bear no solution, then it's toxic as hell. Because if you're going to sit there and beat me, Dad, if you're going to sit there and beat me, Uncle, I would only hope and pray that you're beating me with a sense of, hey, now that I've beaten you, here's what we're going to do about that. That would help. But I don't blame the last generation. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Why would I blame them for something they only knew as far as, you know, that's what happened to me, so I have to do it to you. It's not personal. I just never had a way of relieving it. It's kind of funny because as far as, you know, physical training, as far as in like PE, right? So I work for the school district. I've always noticed a pattern with the kids who cry as far as when we're doing our workouts and stuff. And I've always found the ones to cry just naturally out of nowhere. Now, no pressure, no one making them cry. But when it would get to a task where it became too difficult, they seem to be the most passionate people in the world. That crying, when it activates naturally, right? You know, not picking on them, not bullying them. Oh, no, I'm crying because, you know, Bigfoot is real. No, not that. I'm talking about putting a kid under the bench bar and telling them that's 225. That's the next step up. You have to hit 225 because going down is not going to help you. And all of a sudden they come across the issue where it's like, I can't get it up. And then they start to tear up. And it's like, why are you tearing up? I don't know if I can do this. Well, you have no other choice. It's either you will do it or you won't. And then all of a sudden the tears start to drop, and it's that much more real to them because they can feel the consequence of not doing it. They can feel, you know, is this what's going to validate me? If I lift this bar, there's no pressure. The pressure is all on you because you know you can, but you're afraid to succeed right now. So when you're crying like that, if you're a young man crying like that, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's failing and succeeding and knowing that you can do it. But if you fail, you're gonna have to start back at the drawing board, and that's fine. But if it's like, oh, they keep telling me I'm slow, and you know, oh my God, I didn't want peanut butter and jelly, I'm gonna slap the hell out of you. Listen, all right. I will deal with your sisters in doing that. But as far as you whining about peanut butter and jelly, son, you better eat the damn sandwich. That's all I can afford right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and one thing is, it took a long time for me to get over the fact that, you know, to cry in front of my wife. Like, it was weird for me for like, in the moments where I was supposed to cry, I didn't, because I thought, you know, I got to toughen up, be, you know, stoic. But what all that did was just made my wife see a deeper problem, was that she couldn't help me. She felt inadequate in our relationship because she felt like, man, I can't help this man. I'm supposed to be the one there to bear the burden when he can't do it himself. And yet he won't allow me to. And it internalized a lot of problems to where, yes, I would get so violent, and I don't know where it would come from. But I mean, I eventually, when I got to the point where I would discover where it came from, it was because all the times I wouldn't want to cry and just let it be, just yell, just, you know, breaks. It's okay. But when you get to a point where you're now externalizing that physically towards a person, yo, bro, you're unhealthy. You are not mentally stable. The way you are going about this is very childish. It's immature. Like, you're 26. Is this how you want your kids to see you? Don't do this. Don't do it. And so now my whole goal is this. Yes, it's okay to normalize crying, but it is not the solution to just cry all the damn time. After you're done, when you wipe away the tears, we need to talk about what happened that pushed you to that point. Once we get to that, hopefully the next time you go through that, you won't have to cry about it, because there is a solution. You know what I'm saying? But as far as, you know, oh, you know, I wanted that. Do you want to give it to me? No. We need to nip that in the butt now. You need to understand that crying is you trying to get your way. You're trying to be spoiled. I will not allow that myself. So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay, no worries. Yeah. I definitely, I love what you said is, you know, the solution, finding a solution. If a boy cries, let's figure out a solution. But just beating on a boy and telling him to stop crying for no solution, no communication, and trying to figure out the, you know, what he's going through and never the communication with him. I'm sure all of us have been beaten sometimes and we had no idea why.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point too, Will.
Go ahead.
That's a good point too, is showing that tough love but never explaining to your kids.
Yeah.
My partner's really big on this, funnily enough. She gets really frustrated being a stay-at-home mom, you know, being exposed to the kids all day. It just gets to the point where any little thing that, you know, the kids would do, she'll go off, and, you know, I have to pull her back almost every time. And I keep telling her, there's no reason for you to feel guilty after you've shown discipline to the kids constantly. That to me do not make sense. To me, explain to the kids why you're so angry about certain behavior that they do. Explain it to them so that they can understand it. But you have to do it consistently. You just can't, you know, like what we've gone through, just get beaten for nothing at all, or get yelled at for nothing. You have to explain, you know, why you're so angry and why that certain behavior bothers you. And it's quite interesting that that's a process that most people would assume it's the male doing that. Whereas in my situation, I find my partner doing that a lot. It's like, no, sit down with the kids, explain to them why you're frustrated, and try and improve. You know, it may take weeks, months, but as long as you're trying to improve.
I love that, man. I truly love that you get to say it out loud, because that needs to be heard.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it does.
Be heard. And Daniela, you said something earlier it's crazy. You know, when you talk about how your father raised you, like how your father got up, you follow exactly your father's footsteps. Right? When you take a look at how we follow our father's footsteps, we then end up being the same. So we repeated what our father has done. And the only way that we can be different, like you said earlier, Marcus, is to take a look at what you're doing and what you could do different for your child. Right? But when you take a look at, like those of you that are fathers right now, you take a look, how much time do you really spend with your kid in a day? Now take that back another, how much time do you really truly spend quality time that makes a difference? When you shrink it down, it's very small, but it's maybe 5 minutes that you really spend quality time with your kids. Now take another look. When you're really sitting there and being with your son or your daughter at that time, take a look at the time. You might want to get present with that in like tomorrow when you wake up, and really take a look how much time you really spend with your children. Because we don't spend any time. Most of our time is spent at work. 95% of the time we spend at work, and all the other bullshit that we're going through our head, right? And then worrying about being married in the rest of the world. And we only give about maybe 1% of our life real attention to our children. And that 1% makes a difference. Now imagine if that 1% becomes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%. That work doesn't take us away from raising our children. That is going to make the difference. So we want to take a look at the quality of time that we spend with our children, and how do we contribute to our children? If you're only spending 5 minutes a day, you ain't doing a damn thing. That 5 minute comes and goes like this, because when the kids go back to reality, school and everything else, all that little time disappears. But you want to have a bigger impact in your children, take another look at the quality of time that you spend with them. So we don't end up like our fathers. Not in a bad sense, but in repeating what our father has taught us.
Okay. All right, no worries. So Chelsea, well, was that your piece, or do you want to expand on that?
Good.
You're good? All right. All right. So yeah, everybody that's watching this right now, let me know your thoughts. You have some great perspectives. Fellas, I listened to everybody said, and I do agree for the most part. Based on my opinion, the reason why I believe it is not toxic to raise boys to stop crying. Like I said, it's okay to cry, but I do agree with Daniela. You know, it's okay to cry, but at some point we need to stop crying and be able to find a solution and move. And what Chelsea said, and move forward, right? We can't keep crying about our problems and letting life dictate what we do. It's our decisions that is going to dictate what we do to move on in life. But the reason why I do believe that it isn't toxic is because of the realities of what men go through, based on the realities and the expectations and the roles that the men play in society and in families and in life, in the real world. Because let's be honest, right? You know, I believe there are expectations of men in real life. You know, if a man's leading, I do believe a man should be the leader of the family. I believe a man, his role in life is the provider and protector of the family. Because let's keep it real, right? If the family is endangered, right? The endangered, who's the first person they look up to protect the family? It's not the women, it's the men, right? If the woman's pregnant, you know, she's in her 9 months, and she's in the most vulnerable state, who do they look for to be able to handle the responsibility and take care of the family? It's the men, right? And as we all know in life, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be things that's going to happen, there's bad things that's going to happen. And that's why I really believe that as young boys, we need to teach them to be able to, like Daniela said, don't look for crying as your first tool, as your first decision to deal with your problem. That should be, if you happen to cry, it's okay. But at some point, you need to take responsibility and man up, because the reality is we do have our responsibility as men to be the provider and protectors, to take care of our women, to take care of our children. And the thing is, when things don't go well in society and in our families, who do they look for? They look for the men. And if you don't know how to control your emotions as a man, and you complain and whine and become a coward, then there are consequences too that not only just going to happen to you, but it's also happen to the people that rely on you, especially your family, your wife, and your children. So that's why I believe that, like I said, you know, I do believe that men to learn to stop crying and man up, because there are roles that we have to play in the real world when we become men and we start families, we become leaders, not only of our life, of our communities, and the expectations that we need to fulfill. And if we don't man up and take care of responsibilities, there's consequences, not only to yourself, but also the people that rely on you. So that's my take on it. And that's why I believe.
There's a breakdown in the conversation.
Yeah,
what I'm hearing is that we're talking about men, men that are crying, right? But I think what we're really trying to say is, how do we raise our children?
Yeah.
You get that? It's not men that cries. I mean, who gives a damn if somebody's 24, 26 having a crying conversation? Who cares?
But the men that we become later in life starts from our childhood. That's why that's important.
Could be. But that's when we as men go up, that person's going to end up the way that they are, and it doesn't matter. What matters is how we bring them up from young children to become adult in life. So what I'm hearing is what we need to work on is how do we teach the process of like dealing with emotions, like Daniela said, having that last tool to be the last one that he gets used. What if we taught him 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 ways of being different?
Yeah.
And so we're not constantly just reaching to our emotion and letting it out.
Yeah.
Right. Going back to the toolbox. Let's bring all the tools back. This is where we were talking about, men. We have to come forward with all of our knowledges, not just our experience of life, but bring that forth and start showing the difference to those children.
So if I could jump in, so you said earlier, the son will become like the father, right? So that's one of the things I want to talk about. Like the son will become like the father. And then Will, you asked me a question early on in the conversation. You asked me, is there something that I teach differently from teach my daughters and I teach my sons? Well, the question that you have to ask yourself, at that time when I told you guys a story about my son and put it on his shoe, and he asked me, why am I mad? Why am I hitting him? When he asked me that, the question that I asked myself, and it took me a while to remember, was, am I the type of man that I want my sons to grow up and be like?
Hell no.
Hell no, I wasn't. No.
Hell no, I wouldn't my son to be like me.
Yeah.
No, and then the second question that you ask your daughter, you ask yourself for your daughter is, am I the type of man that I want my daughters to be with? You know what I'm saying? Like when it comes down to that, you have to look at it like that. And so when you look at that equation, no, I'm not. And you know why I know that I wasn't? It's because I didn't cry. Nobody ever saw me cry. People saw me cry one time, and that was it. And nobody ever saw me cry after that. You know what I'm saying?
Can I add on to what Marcus said?
Go ahead.
This is just a side note. How I used crying to get some punani. Listen, because it's gonna tie in. It's gonna tie in. Let it tie in. So just like Marcus said, I am not the guy that I'd want my daughter to be with, because if I'd be that low to use emotion as a trap, as far as if you see me cry, and then you'll console me, then I weaken. So in a way, like even teaching that, that's toxic as hell. That's a good point. So like, I mean, for instance, if me using that, Marcus brought it when he said, am I the kind of man that I want my daughter to be with, or the kind of man that I want my son to be like? Hell no. Hell no, double times, because I mean, I know the things that I've been through, but at the same time, I know what to look out for. So I understand the faults that I made, but raising me, the whole toxicity about the crying thing and manning up. Yes, there's a point to where we stop that, but also me realizing Marcus asking that question, it could even be used to, harm somebody's emotional state. Oh, I'm crying, so I need your console. Next, we're in her room, and that is not what I expected to happen. But it is what it is. So, I mean, there's a right place and a right time. Basically, is what I'm saying, to be emotional, but in the sense to where when he had asked that triggered that. I would look, if you're gonna cry in front of my daughter, may it be the right time. But if you're gonna cry in front of my daughter to get in her in her room, God forbid if my son or me ever find you. So there's that.
It raises an interesting question. When we have that stance, right? Do I want my son to grow up and be like me? And the majority of the answer is no. Are you putting to me, that's putting a limit on your growth mindset especially for me as a father. I would want my son to take all the tools that I've learned and honed that will get him through life, and then improve on them, be an even better version of me. Because I'm big into that growth mindset of self-evaluation. Am I doing the right thing or am I not doing the right thing? And I evaluate, my surrounding, my family, what's the state of emotion in the family, how's my partner feeling? I check in on my kids and all of that stuff. So I think we also need to get out of that mindset too. Oh, I don't want my daughter to be with a guy like me or my son to grow up. I think we should say, hey, I want you to take all the tools that I possess, even hone it to something that you can improve on and pass it on to your sons and to your daughters. Because I think a lot of things we do, we get stuck in this thing where we want to shield our children, but the only true teacher of life is experience and to go through hardship. And to me, it's a lot better for me to arm and prepare my kids to face those hardships, to try shield them so when life does hit them, they don't know what to do. That's my take.
All right.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. And Marcus, thank you for sharing your life out here in this conversation. Like to bring out your conversation with your son, the way you smacked him and the way he had that, it's brilliant. And I say it's brilliant because it brings all of us to be. I was in that moment when you're describing that. And Savage, when you talk about you using your tears to get yourself a hand, whatever you call that, right? But that's being real in the conversation. We can all see it happening in our life, right? Because I'm dealing with my 10-year-old son, and what I'm dealing with is, what would you like to eat? Oh, Dad, I'm hungry. What would you like? My question is, what would you like to eat? And he goes, I don't know. And when he says, I don't know, I'm all in my mind, I'm about to whip the living yep out of you. Just tell me what you want. You want McDonald's? I don't care what you want. Just say what you want. And he sits and he cries. I have to take a look within myself. I have to take a walk outside to catch a few breaths of good air, right? Before I can be okay up here just to have a conversation before I can figure out what he wants. And this is part of what we talked about earlier, right? Discover and find out what's going on with your son. And this is something I've worked with ever since he was a baby. He's 10. And I finally get to a place where I sit down and listen. You can sit here and you can cry all you want. And when you're ready to go eat, you tell me what you want. We'll go have it. We'll go have it. In 3 minutes, he's able to make up his mind. I could easily have whipped him. My old way of being showed up, and I was like, I want my son to discover something new for himself, about himself and for me. And this is the part where Daniela is great. I would love to have my son capture that moment. And it's only in that moment that he's discovered for himself that Dad is being this way and I have a choice. It's that experience that he get to have and he had to have for a long period of time that he will pass on. It is about experience, like Daniela said. Give your son the best experience there is at this moment so he can move forward with that and provide more experience, a great experience of life out there in life. So I appreciate you guys like sharing authentically about what you're dealing with in life. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Yep. I just want to one more word.
Yep, go ahead.
The other thing that's so great about this discussion, I think, is that we're going through and revealing all the experiences that we have that are negative. The one thing that I think often passes over our head at what we're doing, we're taking accountability. We're taking accountability for all our actions that we've done in the past that are negative. That is a good quality that I want to pass on to my son, and I hope a lot of fathers would do, is realizing where you've done wrong, being accountable for it, and learning from it. And that's what we're doing right now, is sharing all these experiences. We're taking accountability without, some of us without noticing, but it's one of the best traits that I think I've ever learned, is taking accountable for where I am in life and doing something about it so that I can improve my own personal state. And I wish I'd pass that on to my son. And I hope a lot more young men would learn that skill and learn it a lot earlier than I did.
Daniel, I only wish I could say it the way you're saying it, because it's a lot better. You sound a lot smarter when you talk like that.
All right. That's my Daniela all the way from New Zealand represent. Thank you so much. Yeah, but thank you so much, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts and experiences and being very genuine and authentic on your responses. If everybody that's watching, let me know your thoughts. But like I always say on the video, I got a real problem for you guys real quick. I see there's about 12 people watching and I only see 6 likes. So
what the hell is wrong with you people?
What the hell is
pressing
going on?
the button?
I need all of you guys right now to man up and press that like button.
I think just focus on the content. I think the content's that great that they're focusing on the content.
Yeah.
All right. So definitely let's definitely get these likes, y'all. We're trying to get the algorithm going. I want to get this video to spread out as many people as possible and support your brother on this channel real quick. So press that like button real quick. But fellas, I do want to transition to something. I think we can something that Daniela ended off with, which is accountability.
Woo.
Right. All right. So I think so the thing is the first question that we talked about, is it toxic for young boys to teach young boys to stop crying and man up? So one of the feedback I do receive a lot of women, they say, no, it's okay for boys to keep crying and he can keep crying as long as he wants to. Right. So that's the question I want to ask you guys is, we all discussed that, it's okay to cry, but then at some point we have to take accountability and we got to make good choices for our lives and we got to be able to move on and progress and move forward. That's a lot of the things everybody said on their opinions. But what I do want to bring up is what happens to those boys that keep crying. So I want to know your thoughts on that. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of young boys out there that are complainers, they're whiners, they're blamers, I like to call it, the word.
I want to hear Marcus's, only because Marcus lives in the world of taking action. Performance, right? So I want to hear Marcus's take on this one. He's all lit up and I want to truly hear it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of young boys out there that are complainers, whiners, blamers. They're cowards, they always run away from their problems, run away from challenge. And that's the reality of the world that we live in. So we all talked about we can cry. I mean, at some point we gotta take accountability and stop. But in the world, in today's Western society, where we're saying, there's a lot of women out there saying it's okay to raise boys. It's, if you want to cry, keep crying. It's okay. So I want to hear your opinion. For those young boys that are out there, is there a repercussion for young boys if we don't teach them to stop crying, if they keep crying and never learn to be able to control that? Is there going to be a problem that's going to lead forward? Is there consequences? Is there going to be ramification? Or maybe there's not, according to your opinion. I want to hear your thoughts about that. And we'll go back to the very beginning. Marcus, I'll open up with you. Is it okay for you? Keep crying and then don't stop.
Hell no, it is not okay for young boys to keep crying. And listen, you can have your emotions. And like we talked about it, identifying young emotions, like right off the jump, identify that emotion that's causing you to cry, accept it, take responsibility for it, deal with it. Now assess it. Because once you've identified it, you need to assess it, put some plans into action, put a course of action into play, and then get better and stop crying. All right, because the world doesn't need cowards. I'm telling you right now, that's the one thing that gets on my nerves is a man that chooses not to be a man. Crying does not make you any less of a man. All right, having emotions does not make you any less a man. The currency nowadays is not IQ. Like we got a teacher on here, currency is not IQ, it's EQ. You know what I'm saying? It's your emotional quotient. How emotionally intelligent are you when it comes to assessing your emotions? And a lot of these men don't have the tools, like Daniela said, don't have the tools. They're not equipped with the tools to get out there in life. And so thus, what does that stop them from me? It stops them from being great leaders. It stops them from being great husbands. It stops them from being great partners and stuff like that. We get into this instant gratification where like, oh yeah, like they have no values. I mean, let's break it down. Like they have no values because of the men that they grew up around, because of the lack of men that they grew up around. It's concerning. Like it's a big problem. It is a problem. Like again, I will call a man out quick. Like a lot of people talk about on TikTok, I got this, this guy that's, he's trolling me. I don't get a lot of trolls. The reason why I don't get a lot of trolls is because I will confront you face to face, like, or message to message, and then let's match wits, and again, before I made a switch and change, before I started to read books and study about things about myself, before I sought therapy and sought counsel from other people who were better off than me, before I did all that, I used to fight anger. I used to be angry. And so I would lose every verbal conversation. I would lose every dialogue. And it doesn't help that my love language is words of affirmation. So if you're not, shedding love on me, then I would lose. But now it's not the same. It's because now I know how to talk. I know how to speak. I know how to share. Hey, look, I'm not feeling good right now. I need a moment. Let me sit back and then let me come back to you. Right. And so, yes, I think there are men out there that need to take notice and go and find another man. There's strong men in here that are actually talking about this conversation. Men want to be leaders. All right, men. And if you don't want to be leader, you want to be in the presence of a leader. You want to be in the presence of somebody, of a subject matter expert. And that's the thing. We have to go out and get it. And again, how does a man go out and get the knowledge to become different? You got to make it safe for him. I mean, let's be real. All right. And I just want to bring one thing up. Daniela said, and again, we can save it for later, but I just wanted to talk about it. What happens when we tell a young man, say, hey, young man, stop crying, man up. You know what I'm saying? That's, again, us men get shunned for it. But what happens when that comes from the woman that you love, your mom, your sister, your wife? You know what I'm saying? What happens when that happens? That's a big problem. And that's where a lot of these men, and I'm going to say it like that, don't have a male figure in their life, whether they were raised by a single mother, whether, they were orphaned or whatever the circumstances are around their situation, father left or whatever, those young men need to seek guidance and seek counsel from these guys. And who they turn to and talk to? Probably an uncle, probably a grandfather, probably a brother, an older brother, probably their coach, probably, probably their teacher, somebody. They turn to somebody. And so I think that's the best thing that a woman can do is provide an example for these guys. But anyways, I digress. I go back to it. I think it's a problem, and I think men need to, step up and seek counsel.
Thank you. Yeah, Marcus, thank you for sharing that. And I love something you said, that if a man doesn't learn how to control his emotions, it's gonna burden his performance as a man, right? I think one of my favorite quotes is like, untamed emotion is the enemy of performance. So if you don't tame your emotions, don't control it into a positive, to create positive decisions for your life, then there are repercussions for it, and it's gonna hinder your growth as a man. So Daniela, what's your thoughts?
I want to bring it back why we feel emotion, like Marcus sort of said, right? And going down the rabbit hole of gathering data and research and whatnot, it's apparent that men or boys feel more emotional when they're young versus young girls, whereas later on in life they become less emotional, and then women become more emotional. The way I understand that is, emotion for us men is how we regulate the world and how we determine what threaten us in the immediate term, mid-term and long term. But learning to regulate that at an early age, we become instinctual being. That's why you hear a lot of people, oh, it's dad's instinct, or it's a man's instinct. And then the opposite for women, it's a woman's intuition, it's a mother's intuition. And learning to regulate your emotion and identify them earlier on in life is very important for us. And I'm pretty sure every person on this podcast can verify this. At some stage, some point of your life, you had a gut feeling about something, and you were right. You didn't know where it came from, but you just had a gut feeling, and it ended up being true. And that's the power that we have as men.
Oh, Daniela,
you touch with your emotion.
Okay.
Your brain is not getting the.
Daniela, you're freezing up a little bit. Daniela?
Yep.
We
I can
lost
hear
it
you
to
guys.
power.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've really identified when I was quite big into sport, I did my little bout with Muay Thai, and I think Marcus might bear some testimony into this. When you go through war in the ring, when you go through absolute war and you reach this wall, this point, I like to look at it. There's an event here, and then there's me, my emotional state. And then I use that as, that's me crying, giving up. Event, crying, giving up. There is this area here that is so profound that if you lean into it and realize what it is, man, that feeling will push you through anything. And if you just hold on from reaching that place of just fully giving up and lean into this gray area, I can't put any word to it. You have to go through it, and being physically challenged to your limit, where you have to either deal with it or give up. That's what I'm trying to instill to my son when I tell him, you need to figure out why you're feeling the certain emotion that you're feeling right now before you reach into your toolbox and grab the crying tool. I want you to live in that moment, because that moment is so crucial for you in life. It could mean you saving your family or not. We're so complacent nowadays with all the regulation and how the world is. But if a man stands in front of you and threatens your life and your family, you need to know how to react. And you can only do that when you regulate yourself in this area. And yeah, the amazing thing about human beings is that we process things differently. You always have outliers. And even though some men may be raised to cry, few of them may come out of that, like how we process our feelings, but the majority of them will never learn how to regulate their emotion, therefore never learn how to channel it in a healthy way. But yeah, that's my take on it, and hopefully I'm not breaking up too much.
Yeah, no worries, Daniela. My bad, y'all. I just caught a Charlie horse right now, so I got a little crap. But before I pass it on, Savage, I just want to say, I want to give a shout out to my audience. I just saw that we had 13 people watching and 13 likes. That's what I'm talking about, y'all.
That's how we go.
We had the same amount of likes and people
It's
watching.
about goddamn time, people.
About
Don't just watch
time.
for the sake of watching. Watch and press the damn
That's what I'm
thing.
talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You like the content. You guys are engaged. You guys are focused. You guys are listening.
I'm blaming it on Marcus.
Yeah.
What happened when you bring a
I'm
sexy
sure.
looking man into a conversation? Nobody wants to press. Everybody wants to watch.
You know why,
Here
right?
are only ugly people.
We have a celebrity. We have a celebrity joining us tonight.
I'm trying to be like you, man.
I don't know about you. But I love the conversation. Here's the reason why I love the conversation. The matter of the fact that we can all just kind of sit here and let it go, right? And Daniela, what you said earlier was beautiful. Beautiful, man. Just that whole conversation about teaching your children, like having your kids take something on, taking a little bit of what you taught them and then move on. But I also at the same time, I still have it that our kids would experience life the way they experience it. Our experience of life with our children is going to be this much. Because it is their own experience that they get to live, not live through our experience. Whether they take the tools that we give them, whether they're ready for it, they're going to go through the same bullshit that we all do. And it's that experience that allows them to define who they are. And so when I said I don't want my son to be like me earlier, 100%, I want you to go experience life differently than what I have. And create your own new way of beings. Like discover something bigger than I have. And all I discovered for me is, wow, I don't have to be mad all the time. Right? My discovering of life is that I'm the only one that makes up the BS in my head about every single thing that's happening up there. And if my son could take that on and go expand on life, that I'm the source of my own greatness. And nobody's conversation out there makes an impact here, that I'm the solution. Because they're going to be kids, they're going to be human beings, and they're going to do life the way they want, not the way we want them to. And only that, they'll discover something new for themselves. So I don't want us to get caught up that our kids have to do what we say we have to do. They don't have to. I didn't do what my mom and dad wanted me to do. My dad wanted me to go to school. I'm the only one in the family that he went and took to school to register and do college. I didn't want to do that. I was too dumb. I thought in my head I was too dumb. I couldn't pay attention. So I dropped out of school and did something else. I'm just saying it's our expectation of ourselves and our kids for our kids to live in our dreams that hold our kids back. When we allow our kids to go discover themselves, life gets to be better. Life gets to be better. So I hope my son never takes on that he has to be another me, but he has to go discover there is a world that he can be on his own time.
Yeah, I love what you said, Yossi, that, they don't have to be like us, but I think the one thing, because of all of us having this conversation, that the one thing that we are breaking in, I guess, in the generational cycle is we're giving them a blueprint, a map, or a foundation, because a lot of young boys out there they never had this information, right? They never had the guidance, they never had the map, like Marcus said. They didn't grow up with healthy, strong, masculine male figures in their life. So they had to, like a lot of us, including myself, I had to figure these answers on our own. But now, because we have the knowledge, we can pass it on. And they don't have to go through the same situations and obstacles that we go. They can avoid it, but if they do deal with it, they have, like Daniela said, they have the tools. And a lot of us didn't grow up with the tools necessary to learn what a man was, but now we could give back to them and make their path a lot different than ours. So, Savage, I'm gonna pass it down to you, Savage. What are your thoughts on what we discussed about boys that keeps crying?
The accountability, right? So, hearing you guys, man, I tried not to get emotional because I remember, whenever I just me personally, speaking from experience, passing through my grandma's old house, I automatically get emotional. The good, the bad, her passing. Marcus said EQ, and that's so underrated. Like, we don't put into account how spiritual the emotions can be. Emotionality is a part of the human experience, and if you try to cut that off, I believe it'll shorten your lifespan. I really do. I really believe it's unhealthy to not feel your emotions. I used to believe I was the angriest person in the world. Like there was just no solution to anything. And when I resorted to crying, I would get angry about that because I wouldn't know what the hell was going on with me. But that's just me as a boy, and getting older as a man and looking back, I'm like, man, like all it took was one person saying, hey, listen, it's okay. But at some point you got to get right back up and we got to figure this out. And that's all it really takes. Look, there's nothing wrong with the tears coming from your eyes and letting out all that frustration and whatever's bothering you. But as a man, you have to figure it out. If I can't figure it out, if your mom can't figure it out, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, whoever can, you are going to have to figure this out at some point in time. Because if not, all you're going to be doing, as far as what we were talking about, the cowards who do cry and they just continue to cry and stay crying. I'm not even gonna lie. They even have a place on this earth too. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because it shows me what not to, as far as the consequences that I don't want to experience. If that's what crying all the time is going to resort to. Hey man, you know what? I'm good. Let's figure out the next step. Let's just get moving now, because I think that's what grounds us. Crying. One thing about the emotion of sadness, grief, mourning, things of that nature. I honestly believe that release makes us stronger, right? But to hold on to it, now you're being stagnant. Now you're allowing yourself to have a pity party, and because you're going to sit there and cry, what is that going to teach anybody else? You're not reliable. So I'm going to stay away from you because you're going to stay in your own emotional state, and that's not helpful to me. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm sure as hell no, it's not beneficial to me. So therefore, I have to remove myself from this. I know personally, if my son was to see me cry consistently, constantly, and just never have a solution, my son at some point in time is going to, see this and either is going to normalize it and he starts doing it, or, best case scenario for him, he's going to find someone who will give him a proper solution because daddy won't stop crying. So, as far as is it toxic to raise these young boys to stop crying and man up? Like I said, if there's a solution, then, we should resort to the solution. But if you have no solution, yes, it's toxic. And as far as accountability goes, yes, man, let that boy know it's okay to cry. Don't stay crying, but it's okay to cry. And I'm not even gonna lie, like there's stuff I will get emotional about out of nowhere just by thought. I'll remember like, damn, my dog died, and I sat there and watched that. Oh my God, why am I feeling this now? I didn't feel it back then, but now, kind of breaking it down, like I cried because I took care of that dog. I fed that dog. I slept with that dog, and I did everything with that dog as far as making an emotional connection to this dog. So that sentimental value is not only real, but these tears coming from my eyes validate that relationship. So at some point in time, I'm going to not only get over this, but I just want that dog or the spirit of that dog to know, thank you for being a part of my life in that season when I needed you. You're never forgotten. And that's just me talking about a dog. So, the accountability of crying or showcasing that to these boys. Yes, we must be accountable by explaining why we're crying as far as me as a man to my son, but also normalize him. It's okay to cry. Just don't stick to it. That shouldn't be your first thing to do. If it's the last thing that's going to come to mind or to your heart, then by all means. But as far as I will take it from my personal opinion, yeah, man, we should be accountable when we cry.
All right, no worries.
Thank you so much. Hearing that word, I think the word that you guys throw out there it's like coward. I have it that the word is extreme, right? There's no such thing for me. There's no such thing as a coward, because we all do things out of fear, whether it's good or it's bad. We all do things out of fear. Right? So you got to be really, really careful using that word, because that if you say that we all have our place in this earth, we all need criers. We're not all hunters here. Hunters need to be the way hunters are. People that need to cook are meant to be cooks. We all have our places in life. And it doesn't mean that we all have to act the same. If I'm a hunter, I'm going to do what a hunter do. That doesn't mean I have to act like a cook. Cook is going to do the cook. The family man is going to stay home and take the family man. But when I become a hunter, I'm a hunter. So we don't want to collapse who we are as individuals. We want to say there are different types of humans. There are different types of men in this world. And I get to be okay with every single one of them. It's what makes us human. What makes us human is that we are okay with how every single person are. And we're not forcing the entire world to become the same thing. Life would suck if we're all MMA fighters. You got that? Life would suck if we all became MMA fighters. Then where are the fans? Where are the spectators, as they call it, right? Because we need all different kind of people to be around. So be okay with those people that end up the way that they do, because we all need it in our life. Because it also takes courage for them to be different other than you and I, the way you and I ended up being. A lot of courage.
Yeah. Savage, you have something to say?
Yeah, and this is not directed or in response to what Chelsea said. I believe if you're the type of man that you would touch a woman and Big Brother comes looking for you to get your ass whooped, and you start crying because now it's a defense mechanism. Toco, I didn't. Oops, come on, I didn't touch her. No. Now listen. Not only are you gonna stop that crying, if you're gonna keep crying, I'm gonna whoop your ass while those tears are streaming down your face.
That's right.
Because that can also be used as a defense mechanism. Is if like oh no, my emotions. Oh no, our table's broken. You know what I'm saying? Like, this stuff gets ridiculous as far as like when I was highlighting, the role of the coward. Yeah, even those guys are needed in the sense like, what not to be. You know what I'm saying? Because like at the end of the day, the coward, the way I identify the coward is just simply, you're crying, that's fine. But if you're going to normalize that when you do something wrong and then you use crying as a way to escape from your consequences, I'm sorry. That's why there's people like me and Marcus who will come out there looking for you. So,
yeah. Just to go off of what Savage said in responding to Siowski, right? Like, Siowski, you said that you don't believe that there are cowards. Is that what you said?
No, because
Okay.
it takes something to be different.
Okay, no,
Because we all live in a world of fear.
I would push back on that because I guess it all goes on based on everybody's definition. But for me, the definition of a coward is a man that doesn't take responsibility for his choices, that runs away from it. And for me, I mean, yeah, I'm not, like I said, according to is if like you said something very that was very profound. You said that we all do things out of fear, and I believe that's what courage is. Even though we are afraid, but we still take the initiative and move forward. But there's a lot of people out there that they made bad choices, and then the consequences are coming in, and they're afraid to deal with it. And instead of dealing with it, they run away from it. And that, to me, is a definition for coward. And those are men that are not. Those are not considered men to me. If you run away from the consequences of your choices and responsibilities as a man, as a leader, as a father. Daniela, you had to say something to say.
Yeah, I agree with Siasi to halfway through what he's saying. And we need to celebrate the differences that we have as men. Some of us may process things differently, and some of us, I consider myself almost to the extent of I'm a bit of a psychopath, in the sense that it doesn't make logical sense to me to cry about anything, where I could use that energy to figure out what I can and can't do in order to improve my situation. Doesn't mean I don't cry. It gets to a point where it's too much. I get in my car, I go for a long drive, and even then I find my outlet through that process, and I end up not crying. And I've had discussion with my partner about this, but I do agree in the sense that we need to celebrate that some people, it may take them a certain process, a different process to go through regulating their emotions, building their own sense of resilience, whereas others are, completely different. But I think the important thing that we need to establish is we need core fundamental values as men that we need to follow and to abide by in order for us to contribute at least some form of way to not only ourselves, but for our family. Because real life situation for me is that I get to see a lot of my partner's female friends who have had weak men left them, and I get to experience the whole knowing their story and what's happened behind the scene. And they have young boys. And when they come over to my house and I see those young boys, I feel sad as a father, because now those young boys do not have a male figure in their world and in their life. And it's up to them to survive on their own. Whereas if they just had that father figure present, it could be a lot more easier for them. And it makes me feel, emotional about that. And it makes me relate to my own son. But I think, yes, we need to celebrate the differences as men that we have, but we have to establish there are core fundamental value as men that we need to abide by. Otherwise, we are leaving sons and daughters, for the world to determine their outcome. And, as much as we celebrate human nature in the sense that we can rise above, what the world, throws at us, it's often not the case. And yeah, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's my take on it in a sense.
All right, no worries, Daniel. Thank you so much. Real quick, fellas, thank you so much for all the positive feedback. I want to give a shout out. Thank you so much. I see the likes are going up. The likes are going up, baby. I see you guys. Thank you so much. I see you guys are engaged. Thank you so much for liking. Appreciate it. I see the viewers are starting to go up as well. So much love to you guys and to see all the comments you guys are dropping on the live chat. Thank you so much for your participation and your focus and engagement. Yeah, keep that live chat going. We want to hear your thoughts. And of course, don't forget, if you guys want to be part of this conversation, the public Zoom link is on my different social media platforms. I invite you guys to come on and be part of this conversation. All right. But fellas, real quick, the next question I want to transition into is something that I always hear a lot of young boys and ask, what is it, because we often, because, the topic is it toxic to teach young boys to stop crying and man up? And oftentimes, a lot of young boys, I'm sure you all heard it growing up as young boys as well. We were told to man up and be a man, right? And we were talking about before, a lot of times when we hear it as young boys, we don't know what a man is, especially if we aren't given that guidance or that the communication or the blueprint or the things that we talk about right now. So there's a lot of young boys out there that they don't know what a man is. What is a man supposed to be like? What is it? What's the definition of a man? It's crazy right now. I see on social media, there's women out there coaching men, young boys, how to be men. So there's women out there telling men how to be men. And you guys know my standpoint on it. I don't believe any man out there, if you listen to this right now, you should never take advice from a woman telling you how to be a man. You should take it from other healthy men as well. But the reality is there's women out there telling young boys how to be a man. So all these young boys out there trying to find the answer to what a man's supposed to be. So that's my question to all you fellas is, according to you, in your opinion, what is a man? Because that's one of the questions a lot of young boys are trying to understand and figure out for themselves. So what does that mean to you? What is a man according to you? And that's going to be the question I'm going to ask you guys. I'm going to start with you, Marcus. What is a man? When I say what is a man, what's your explanation or definition of or answer to that?
Thank you for letting me answer that question. So I went on TikTok live. I'm shooting live from my TikTok right now, and like I said, I'm telling everybody to come over to come support the podcast.
Thank you.
And so listen, some of the things that we're talking about right now is the question, is it toxic to tell a young man not to cry? Now, I was just posed with the question of what is a man? And I love that you asked me that question. I was just in the process of making another TikTok today. As a matter of fact, I made it, let my daughters look at it before I post it. And I posted a video. Like a lot of times when I go on here on my TikTok, my TikTok is legit my life. Other social media platforms aren't really that great, you know what I mean? But TikTok is where I can just display myself, personally, and you can really get a glimpse into what my life is like. So I posted a video about a quote that was said back in the day. Maybe it was a Saudi Arabian prince, maybe it was somebody else, but it said, tough times create strong men create easy times.
Yep.
Easy times create soft men. Okay, so if you think about that and going through your life, there's a lot of times where we need our men to step up and be men. That's the call to arms and so on and so forth. So what do I think a man is? A man, number one, is a protector and a provider. Here's the thing, not all men can be leaders, and I understand that, okay? But a protector, a provider. A man is a person, he's a teacher. Again, not all men can be teachers when it comes to, their life. And how do we teach? You said perspective, wisdom. That's how we teach, right? And so values, I talked about values. A man understands compassion, understands empathy, and is willing to look at the overall good of not only his family, but of his village, of his neighborhood, of his community, like of his organization, whatever organization. A man is also somebody that, will see his brother or, his fellow man not doing well and have compassion and empathy for that and want to help out. I mean, how many times in this generation do we see people not stepping in when somebody's getting slapped up or robbed or not breaking up a fight? What do? They pull out their phones. And that's not right. You know what I'm saying? That's not the way it should be. Like, ooh, guess what? I got this world star. Like, you know what I'm saying? Savage, you already know, right? And so like that's not what a man is supposed to be. And then let's break it down into it. Like, listen, like, what are some of the values that he has? Like we talk about compassion and empathy, but what about resiliency? What about integrity? What about what about like just allow communication? Listen, if a man's not willing to talk, that dude has issues. There's something that's wrong with that man. All right. If he's not willing to have a conversation about, let's say, a topic like this, about why he's feeling the way he is, he's hiding something, he's insecure. He could be insecure. Let me not throw assumptions. All right. He could be insecure. There could be something else. There could be red flags, stuff like that. So man, protector, provider, defender of the family, I don't know about what your faith is, but I'm a Christian. So, I'm the spiritual leader of my household. I pray over my household. I pray over my kids. And, that's just what it is. And so like, that's what a man does. And let me just say this, because this is a big part of my personality. A man is capable, like for me, I am the warrior of my family, my sons. I've already instructed my boys. I got some 20-year-old sons and I already told them, like, Daddy will never fight ever again for this family. That is your job from now on. I got into a fight not too long ago and I told my sons, I'm like, this is where you guys need to step up and you guys will be the protectors of this family because Daddy's here to enjoy my kids. You understand? And so, and I just leave it with this is, like, he's capable of protecting the family, in a physical way, but he's loving enough to choose a different path and to be the example for everybody in that family or everybody that's around him. That's what I got.
Marcus, man, powerful, man. Dropping bombs, man. That was powerful. Really, I really felt that, man. Thank you so much, man. I'll pass it on to Daniela. Same question. What is a man?
What is a man? I think as adults, we'll have some core values, but I feel like where it's most valuable and the answer that's most valuable would come from our kids. We can define values that to us may reveal what men are, but man, you know that you are a man when you ask your kids, who's your hero? And when they define their father, that's the definition of a man right there and then. But in the sense that I would look at my own definition of what a man is, like Marcus said, protector and provider. And I run through this mantra with my boy every time I get the chance to be, with him and present with him. I go, who are we? We're men. What do? We protect and we provide. And how do we protect and how do we provide? We have to be strong. Strong where? Physically and mentally. And we run through that. So it may not mean much to him now, but through repetition, he'll start to figure out different things. Oh, why does that, tell me I have to be, strong and, physically and mentally, look at his actions and maybe, that's why he's doing this and he's doing that. I think other than that, there's only two key values that makes a man, and you can pick up any other value after this. You have to be resilient and you have to be accountable. You master those two values as a man, everything else will fall in line. And people need to differentiate accountability and manipulation. People will take ownership of their own mistakes, but they'll go back and do it and redo it and then come off as, oh, I'm sorry, I've done this, I've learned, and then keep going and doing it. That's manipulation. Someone who's accountable for their action has got growth mindset. And by, making the mistake and pulling themselves back and say, damn, I should have done that. Okay, I've got two parts of this. I've got the lesson and I've got to be accountable. How do I be accountable? I have to deal with the people that I've hurt. I have to deal with the repercussion of my action. Then look at the other side. What do I learn from this? How can I improve on how I deal with this and move forward? And being accountable is actually taking yourself a little bit easier than just blaming yourself and going, damn, I'm stupid, I shouldn't have done that. Being accountable is saying, man, I'm just human, but I need to do better than this. I need to consistently train myself to be better at this. And people need to realize that we are the mass. We didn't survive as far as we have because we were the strongest or the smartest. We were the best adaptation machine ever. And that's why we've survived as long as we have. So we have to utilize that natural skill that we have And you can, like, once you master those two qualities, resilience and accountability, everything else starts falling into place. And it doesn't mean you're not prone to, being emotional about certain things. Of course, it will come, but having that resiliency and being accountable for things that happen to you, you will learn to take them on and, come out of it a lot better than you would if you didn't.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Daniela. Really appreciate that. Savage, pass it on to you. What's your thoughts? What is a man?
All right, this is not going to be good, and I'm already knowing. So,
Do it.
You do you,
Well,
boo
Yeah,
boo.
this is why we have the
Send it,
conversation.
bro. Send it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Press
What I
send.
think,
Let's go viral.
shit, man, I'm not even trying right now. I'm just going off my personal belief. But a man is the human being with a penis. Physically first, is a human being with a penis. That's
Biology,
what.
mate.
That's
Now we're
what.
talking gender, right?
Yeah, because that is what I describe or identify as the man. You have a penis. That is the reproductive organ that matches the woman's to procreate, to create life. Now that's just physically the man. I believe the experiences, there are genetic markers in place that actually produce the man. This is going to go completely the other way. This might even be counterproductive, but I believe even the woman can raise a man, as far as shaping the mindset. Because if I know that my mom is working 3 jobs, she doesn't have time to rest. So when she gets home, the only thing she's asking me to do is watch the kids. In a lot of ways, old generational ideology would be, that's not my job, woman. That's not my job. Get your ass in that kitchen, make some food, take care of the kids. What I do is what I do. You stay what you do, and that wouldn't ride with modern day ideology nowadays. Because I know a very great woman for our local rugby team, and I will not share her name, but she's a lesbian, and she's raising a great young man, a very great young man. I mean, this man, you wouldn't even know, but he's an All-American. He's badass at wrestling, top 5 in the state right now for running backs, and nobody would know 2 moms. So if that is not a testament to, necessarily, yes, there's the role of the man to raise a man, but why I said genetic markers, I mean, the man will come into play no matter what. The man will fit and mold and adapt to the times. And I only use, Jesus Christ, why am I going to do this? The role of the third gender back home. When everybody leaves the house, there has to be someone to take care of the family. That still rides today. The role is still valid today.
Mm.
And, as far as what is a man, honestly, it's up here. Masculinity is anything but up here, because physically I am a man. I have the piece to prove it, hopefully. I can show you that I am a man physically, but as far as my actions, as far as my behavior, as far as my characteristics, am I taking care of my duties? Am I being a protector? Am I providing? Am I showing my son how to be a man? Hopefully, because why I used my friend who is she's a lesbian. She's not even a man, but yes, she's raising a great young man. So as far as like ideology, philosophy, and the act of psychology, she's not doing anything to input the fact that, hey, I'm a woman raised. She's just doing everything to understand, like, hey, I love you. You're a great young man. Keep your grades up. And I witness this every day because he comes to my school. So, it's such an interesting time to be alive and see that dynamic. It is because it goes against everything logical to me as a man. Like, I'm in a generation where I'm seeing a woman raise the next Division I running back, hopefully by next year, and hopefully he comes back. But like, nobody would know. And she doesn't ask for the credit, but it's like, well, if she can do that, damn, then that breaks every scientific understanding of you don't need to be a man to raise a man. Honestly, if you pick up the responsibilities, if you understand your role, if you understand what you bring to the table, then by all means, yes, you can do that. I mean, I'm not even going to lie. Like, if you're doing a better job raising my son, obviously it's something I need to work on. I need to work on something because obviously my son's not picking up anything from me, so I'm lacking in something. But what the man is to me, I'm going to go back to say is basically you just have a penis, buddy. That's it. As far as that goes, that's all you are. You're physically that guy. But you know, my thing is, do you understand what it means to be a man? So that's it.
I love it. I love it. You know, you hit that right on the head. Savage. It's right on point. A man is what a man is. Like you, there's two genders, male and the female, and then the rest. But everything that every single one of you have said is right on point, and it's valid, right? But now we're talking about what does it really mean to be a man. I have no idea what that means. I haven't seen a man since my father passed away in 1991. And all, Daniela, all the things that you said, you recreated my father. All the stuff that you say, Marcus recreated my father. Like everything that you all have said is recreated my father. So to me, to be alive, like you said, Savage, at this moment, to watch women like take care of men that are growing up to be extraordinary men. I can only say that what you say, Savage, that men, we all two genders. One gender is a man and one gender is a female, and it's on point. But it is, for me, a man, it is a mindset. Truly a mindset. And it's mind-blowing when you can be a man and be the man of your word, and when your word is how you live. And Marcus said earlier, when integrity and word becomes who you're being, and you honor yourself when you're not being in integrity with self, with the ones that you love, with the one in your community, and you show up as that, is that your integrity arises when you say you're going to do what you're going to do, and you follow through and fulfill on your words. I have it. That's what a man is. And I can never reach that because it's such a big person. Now we're talking about the next realm of God, that is, right? Fulfilling on every possible word and the possibility that he's created for this earth. And yet I'm failing left and right. And yet I wake up every morning and I make some new promises for myself to be different than I was yesterday. I have it that I'm trying to be a man with my word, with my action. And I still haven't found a man yet, other than my father that passed away in 1991. So I'm searching for my father in a sense.
Yeah.
Forever looking for that man.
All right. No worries, Chelsea. Thank you so much. All right, fellas, thank you so much for everybody with all your opinions and thoughts, what you guys shared. I do want to piggyback off what Savage said. I want to say something that may be
inappropriate,
controversial.
There you
all
go.
Right. But this is what I'm gonna say. I do agree with what everybody said. Daniela, Chelsea, Marcus. I do agree with what Savage said. That you know, I do believe a man is biologically born a man. But I will disagree with what Savage said, that women can raise men, right? And a lot of you guys that watch my content, you guys know me. I'm a big numbers guy, all about statistics. So, you know, if you look at statistically, the men that are raised by women, by primarily the woman is the main parent, there are a higher likelihood, more probability of incarceration, drug abuse, dropping out of high school. So just based off those numbers, that's why I believe a man, if you let the woman raise the man, statistically, it doesn't show that it benefits them. And that's just my opinion about that. I just have to say that piece. I just had to say that piece right there. I do believe a man has to be necessary, but But before I give you guys a respond to that, real quick, just to go off what everybody said, what does a man mean to me? Only three things come up for me real quick. I'm gonna say it real quick. Number one, a man is a man that has responsibility. Because I do believe if you are responsible as a man, then you will do everything it takes in your life to be the provider, protector, be that leader, to do everything you need to do to be a great man in your life. And a man that doesn't have responsibility is a man that's not going to do what he needs to do to be that man. And number two is his competence, because you can't be lazy as a man. It requires effort and work and sacrifice to be the best man you can. And a man that's incompetent, I think that does you disservice. And number three, I think for me is purpose. A man that you got to have a purpose in life as a man, because I do believe a lot of the distractions and the failures and the mistakes that we make as men, especially young, is because we don't know our purpose in life. So if we don't know our purpose, the direction, what we need to do, I think Daniela said something a long time ago. I can't remember, but I think Daniela said something like, we shouldn't pursue happiness, we should pursue purpose, because if you pursue happiness, then we do things that makes, for me, like happiness, having sex with random girls, it makes me happy. Doing drugs makes me happy. Having fun and drinking at the club or wasting money makes me happy, but that's not my purpose. So if you know your purpose, you avoid the things that make you happy, that we often make in our lives early as young men, that causes us a lot of consequences and issues. So seeking purpose keeps us focused, keeps us in a narrow path, and puts us in our best path to be great men in life. So those are my three things. I just want to share that real quick. But I saw that Savage and Daniela had, you guys raise your hand. I'm gonna give you guys an opportunity to respond. Daniela, you have something to say? And I'll go back to Savage.
Yeah, the whole thing about females and raising men, right? And Savage has got a great example. What he was saying, a penis makes you a male, values make you a man. And going back to, he's witnessing this woman raise a good son. And as much as the statistics go, there is another side of it, and it seems like this woman is part of this other side. I would wager, though, that women who successfully raise decent men have got two factors playing. That woman has had a great relationship with the father of that child, therefore they value the contribution of that male to the family as a father, or that young man somewhere in his life has seen his mother struggle and he doesn't want to be, another burden to her. I think that's where you find the minority of women that have success with young boys growing is those two factors. The reason why a lot of men are so against women raising men these days is that most modern women despise men based on their experience with men, and therefore raises their young boys to hate on their father instead of here's your father with all the values that he has, learn from him so you can become a better version of him or your own version of what a man is, but at least have some responsibility. And what you were saying, what makes me happy is not is believing that I'm not even meant to be happy. I'm meant to have purpose, and my purpose is to serve my family first and foremost. Happiness is a byproduct that comes naturally for me as I fulfill those responsibilities, and I can't fulfill those responsibilities if I don't have values that I practice. Just because I have certain values doesn't mean that I automatically master them. It's constant practice.
Yeah.
So therefore I fulfill my responsibility, and happiness just becomes a byproduct, but it's not something I chase, but yeah, that's my take on it. And women can do a great job at raising men, but you'll always find that most of them have respected the men in their life and have taken part of it, therefore incorporate it into the boys that they raise, or the boys that just become self-aware of the burden that men has created in their mother's life, and then therefore try to be better men.
All right. Thank you, Daniela. And Savage, you have something to respond?
Interesting.
Yeah. So definitely. Yeah, and I heard what you were saying, Will, and I definitely don't have a problem with it. And I'm not going to try to sit here and disprove what you said. As far as the statistics go, I have a big problem with statistics because they're ever changing. They're never absolute, and it comes from the one person I have the biggest issue with in my life, and that's the government.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm often called a conspiracist, speculator, an alchemist at times. But one thing for sure is because I'm not an advocate for science. Science being a post-colonial aspect. My ancestors, for one thing, isn't new to science. My ancestors practiced science before it was science. This is the same science that, told us that the Black person was 3/5 a human being, the 3/5 clause in the Constitution. And then this is the same science that believed indigenous people had no soul. So they would cut open the chest cavity to find the soul when it wasn't a physical aspect. So when I am told, or when I hear that a woman cannot raise a man, it's funny to me, because most people focus on the physical aspect and not the spiritual, because the science is anything, it's only physical. It does not present the spiritual, whereas spirituality is the opposite of science, because spirituality is absolute. That can never change. That is absolute truth. If I feel that your spirit is a good spirit, you're going to raise, or you're going to circulate around other good spirits. So if raising a man is good spirited nature, well, guess what? That's based off spirituality. It's not actual physical. It's not a physical aspect. Obviously she doesn't have a penis, so how can she raise me? Well, if you're focusing on that, then, obviously she's not going to be able to teach you. But as far as core values go, that passes down from the ancestors. That passes down from the person before the person before the person before. My great. I come from the line of a cannibalistic warrior by the name of Sipakai Tangata. And most people wouldn't even know that. I don't like to share that. But then on my mom's side, I come from a line of Faito, hand healers, ancient hand healers. And I don't like to share that too much because it's so much to get into, but I had to tap into that kind of research and studies. So that kind of research and studies matters to me more than what the government projects as far as statistics and numbers, because one thing about statistics and numbers, they're never absolute. So whereas right now we're focusing on, the women who raise the men right now are more susceptible to alcohol and drug and gang activity. I guarantee you, if you pay attention to how science works based on the past to now, in 10 years, mark my words, look back at this video and watch what I'm saying. In 10 years, it is going to be accepted that the woman who raises the man does a way better job than the man does. I promise you that. Because the way modern civilization works, yes, it is a patriarchal society. But the more and more we are starting to highlight the behavior of man in the darkness, as far as things like Me Too movement, I can't believe Epstein, guys like Harvey Weinstein, that stuff has to come to light. And if that's the kind of stuff we want to normalize again by, thinking that a woman can't, well, show me different. Because the woman that I realize that I'm witnessing every day, bring this man to practice, I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. Science couldn't account for this. Show me the numbers and how this is going to project in the future. Because I promise you, whether my son, my daughter, I have to normalize these conversations. And pretty soon I'm going to have to understand my sons and daughters. They're going to have pronouns. They're going to go to school with transgendered kids. This is all going to be normalized. So the statistics and numbers now that say this is normalized, that, women who, women can't do it. They just can't, because statistics say this. Wipe my ass with that. Wipe my ass with that. Because I promise you, I promise you, stick close to the numbers, and all you ever going to see is the non-human being. Because that's all numbers ever mean. It doesn't focus on actual humanity. It just focuses on what mathematics project about us. But if you stick to the spirit of a person, I promise you, it won't matter physically what that person is raising, but how they are doing it. So with that being said, fuck the government.
No worries. No worries. But just throw it out there. If you work for the government, I love it. You want to support my channel, drop that super chat. Like and subscribe.
That's awesome, man.
All right, fellas, I have to, before we conclude the podcast, I received a question real quick. I got some question from some young men. I just want to throw this real quick, and for the sake of time, can you just give me your short answers real quick to this question? I think this is a very vital. A lot of the young men are texting me right now. What they're saying is, what if I'm a coward? What if I'm weak? What if I complain? What if then they realize that that's who they are, and they want to change that. So they want to become the men that we were all talking about explaining. So how do they do that? So if there's young boys out there that are lost, misguided, they didn't grow healthy, strong male figures in their life, and they realize they are complaining, they realize they're weak, they realize they're cowards. What can they do to put them back on track and help them in their life? And just for the sake of time, just give me a quick answer real quick. I'll start with you, Marcus, and we'll go down the rotation.
Super easy. I got two things for you. Number one, surround yourself with other men that have good qualities. That's the number one thing that you can do in order to become a better man, is seek a mentor in somebody else who has that qualities that you aspire to be like. And the second thing, do jujitsu. I'm just saying, do jujitsu. Like,
Yes, sir.
you know,
All right. Thank you, Marcus, man. Thank you. Thank you. Daniela.
The beautiful thing about human nature is you can learn and you can adapt, whether you're surrounded by people or not. You have this beautiful thing called a brain that you can assess the world around you and figure things out. And one of the things that you can do is obviously get physical, learn who you are as a monster, then learn to control it. Resilience is a thing that is trained. You don't just wake up one morning and you're like, I'm not prone to anything in a sense. Consistency, always train and take accountability. You will mess up. You will. It's part of the human journey. But, day by day, practice makes perfect. But yeah, get in touch with that and resilience, So use your brain. It's a beautiful thing. Never chase happiness.
All right. Savage. Go ahead, Savage.
Yeah, well, first I'd like to tell the young man or woman, whoever asked that question, first and foremost, I love you. If you're not hearing that enough, no one's telling you, I love you. I'm not obligated to. I love you because I'm a human being and you're a human being. Second, definitely is you'll never be a bigger coward than I was. You will never fail as hard as I ever have, and you will never be a bigger loser than I am. But it is because I try every day. I try and try and try to do better than what I did yesterday, which is what I look forward to. If you can do that, I promise you will find the result you're looking for. And as far as a coward or whatever those things are, there's this one thing I heard, and that's speak life over yourself. Speak life over yourself. Even if no one's telling you you're good, hey, I'm good. I'm great. Just speak life over yourself, and I promise you, chemistry, environment, everything's going to change around you. Everything's going to gravitate towards you that you need to succeed. That being said, I love you guys, and above all else, God bless.
Thank you, Savage. Appreciate that. And then last but not least, Chelsea, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, you guys. This is for myself, it's something I would probably tell my son. Like, find that one thing in life that you would like to be good at. And you go to work every single day and master that way of being. Because if you master that way of being and you learn your ups and downs and what works and what doesn't work for you, eventually that will then pass over to every part of your life. Master one area of your life and you see how the rest of your life shows up. Whether it's football, go master football. Whether it's basketball, I don't care what it is. Whether it's, going washing a car, be the best car washer there is. Because you master one thing in life, most likely you'll do life as you master.
All right. Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, master your life. You have to be a master of your life. And I totally agree. Everything you fellas said. I guess, you guys pretty much said everything I wanted to say, but I guess the last thing I would say, just to add on to what everybody said, for all those young boys out there, stop going out chasing women. Stop chasing women. Go find yourself a good woman, but stop chasing these bitches, these hoes out there. And I'm telling you, if you have a relationship with the wrong woman, it will mess your life up. It will mess your life up. Be with the right woman, a good woman, but don't fall into this casual sex culture of the West society, having sex, having hoes, having multiple women. I'm telling you, we have to control everything. This gluttony we can't have everything, especially when it comes to women. And I've seen so many men destroyed, well, not destroyed, but their life is a lot harder because they did not know how to control their urges and weren't disciplined and weren't disciplined when it came to women. That's what I'm gonna leave it off with. All right. So put your penis nice. in your trousers.
It's on
All right. So that's the one that I'll add to everybody. Nevertheless, fellas, we've come to the conclusion of the podcast. For all my audience out there, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the likes and thank you for the subscribers I've seen, the subscribers since they started watching this. I just want to say for all the fellas that are joining me on this podcast, thank you so much for the knowledge and your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're all busy men living out your happiness. Not happiness. Daniela said no happiness. Purpose.
No happiness, man.
living your
don't
purpose.
pursue happiness.
living your purpose. And like Savage said, I love you guys. I love all of you guys that's on this panel, and I love all the men and the women also that tune in. Fellas, just one of the last thing I want to ask you guys real quick. What did you take away from today's podcast, and how can people find you? If people want to find your content and want to reach out to you, how can they find you? That's the last thing I want to ask you guys. Marcus, what did you take away from this podcast, and how can people find you?
The two things that I took away from this podcast, I love it. I love these Polynesian men that think like me, that have the same values as me, just by having the conversation, you know what I'm saying? Knowing that, and one of the biggest things is, that I took away is I love this. I'm going to take this way. I'm going to implement it. Number one is love. Speak affirmations over your life. Speak life into yourself. You know what I mean? And then two, master that area of your life. I believe in that wholeheartedly. Commit 10,000 hours to something that you love. And then finally, Tanya, don't pursue happiness, pursue purpose. Well, thank you.
And how can they find you, Marcus? How can they find you?
Hey, so sorry. You can find me on TikTok at MarcusD33, and you can find me on Instagram, MarcusD33.
For sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Daniela, same thing. Go ahead. What do you take away? How can they find you?
What I take away from this is that, as much as you are in chaos and trying to find your purpose as a man, what makes the journey even more beautiful is that you don't give up. You don't stop trying. Keep doing your best, because at the end of the day, we're all trying, and you may sit at a position where you're starting on page 1 and you may think that we're on chapter 20. We're still on page 1. We're still trying to figure ourselves out. What we may say might not be right in some sense, but we're doing our best. We're taking accountable for where we are in life, and we're doing our best by having a discussion and a conversation about it. The best way to reach me is just comment on Will's Instagram. I'd rather interact in that way. And if you want to take the conversation further, I would rather have it through here, where we can have all the discussion together. So it's fine having a one-on-one, but when you have different opinions that can help you formulate one, I think that's a lot better than just having two heads and whatnot. So go to Will's Instagram, follow the brother, because essentially you promote what we're doing. So yeah.
And Daniela, thank you so much. And one challenge I would give you, Daniela, real quick: put an updated picture on your profile on Instagram. You got no pictures of yourself, no picture. One challenge I want to give you real quick. Put a picture.
I'll do it. I'll attempt. Giving you my word, I'll do it.
All right, thank you. Savage, go ahead.
So if it matters, you'll find me. Don't find me really, because I'm trying not to get canceled. I'm trying not to get canceled. Please, for the love of my life, I'm trying not to get canceled. The government's not after me, the FBI, whoever. Look, just if you'll find me, hopefully the ancestors will lead you to me. But what I will say is, I before E, except after C. Lift the toilet seat up because it shows consideration, right? And then, when in doubt, tough it out. And like Will said, pursue purpose, not happiness. All right.
All right. Happy penis. All right, I like that one. All right.
You're talking about a man that is unleashed.
Yo.
If y'all got some happy penises, drop a comment. Let me know in the live chat. All right. Chelsea, go ahead.
One thing that I took away again is there's two genders, one male and one female, and then there's others. I know I'm going to get slammed for that because I'm just going to get slammed for that. And I just want to clarify that. And what I truly walked away from tonight is that real men can actually just get together and have a real conversation and bring their life into the conversation. What I get to walk away with is experience of you talking about how you raise your children. And I add value and it adds value to me and what I can teach my children. And it's beautiful. And thank you, gentlemen, for having the courage to be here and have these type of conversations. And Savage, you're just a savage.
Savage boy.
I love you guys. I love this. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Much love to you guys.
Love you.
Yeah. And fellas, I just want to say, to conclude this podcast, I want to say thank you so much. Much love to you guys who take your time to be on here. And I guess the one thing I did take away from this podcast, I just go off what Chelsea said, man. Real men uplift each other. That's what I would say, that all of us are all men from different walks of life, from different childhoods, from different experiences. We have different opinions, and we may not agree on all things, but we have a conversation, and we're here to uplift each other.
Yep.
There's so many men out there that are haters. They have negative energy. They want to put other men down, and we need more men to come up and just uplift people. So that's why I really appreciate all these fellas out here, that we can have a conversation, or agree on some things, disagree, but the purpose of it is to uplift each other and be the best man that we can be. So much love to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, for all the love out there, for all the people that like and subscribe. And of course, if you guys love my content, you love these fellas, please support them. I'll definitely have their socials on this video, and you guys can find them. Definitely check them out, and you can find their purpose. South, you guys workouts. If you guys want some workouts, we're all doing great things in our lives. Jiu-jitsu, we've got the MMA star right here. Savage is a savage. Daniela out here dropping bombs, and happy penises. That's what we learned about today. I learned that. That's one thing I learned. I took away from these podcasts. That's my next pickup line. All right. Are you looking for happy penis? I mean,
happy penis, happy life.
That's it.
Nevertheless, fella, thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in. We do this every single Wednesday. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. God bless. Off out the way. Love you guys.
God bless.
Love you guys.